I like the Xotic 4-string bass so much because it feels so comfortable, like an old Fender, but it plays and sounds so much more even, and there's not the setup problems and all the other things that are associated sometimes with vintage basses. It also has some of the upgrades that really make it play and sound so much better, like the Lindy Fralin pickups with the wood covers, which is a really nice touch, a great bridge, and a preamp. It also has a tone control, which I really like on any bass, especially with one that's a maple fingerboard, because it sometimes can be too bright. So you can roll off the tone. So it's really round and really sweet sound, but you can also roll the tone all the way back on and get the really bright sound. This is the Xotic XJ-1T 5-string, and this is the first product that I owned from the company. And when I was looking for a 5-string bass that had all of the things that I really wanted, I was having a real hard time finding one for all the applications that I use it for. So I found this one and ordered it without playing one, and it arrived and I played it, and it was exactly what I was looking for. The day it arrived, I was subbing on a Broadway show, and I took it out of the case, I played it, made sure it was in tune, and I took it to the show and played the show on it. It was that comfortable. You just put it in your hands, and it feels like any jazz bass style instrument that you've played for a long time. It was very comfortable, easy to get used to. And I played it on the show, and the other musicians always see me bring many basses to the show and play, and so everyone's, oh, different bass. So I told them about it, and then when the conductor left that day, he said, that's a different bass, right? And I said, yeah. I said, I just got it. He said, that's the best one. Don't bring anything other than that one. So it was really exactly what I was looking for. I use it on Broadway shows, I've used it on jazz gigs, I've used it on some recordings, and I use it at Radio City Music Hall. And to play in a giant hall like that, you need something that sounds very clear. And the low notes on this bass, the B string is very clear. It sounds just like an extension of the bass, which it should, but it doesn't a lot of times on other basses. Just part of the bass. And same with the high register. It's very clear. And the B string is usable all across the neck. It's not like you can only use the B string down here and you can't use it up here. It's very clear, the whole thing. One of the things that makes this bass so usable for me, like I mentioned, subbing on Broadway shows, sometimes the regular bass player plays an active bass, sometimes they play a passive bass, sometimes it's a P bass, sometimes it's a jazz, so all different kinds of things. So I can make this bass kind of sound very similar to the person that I'm subbing for, which is very important, because if you have a very different sound, then nobody in the whole show is happy. So if it's a passive bass that I'm trying to get, I just pull up the volume knob, and then it's a passive jazz bass, and I have volume tone, and I can match the signal of the person's bass. Or if it's active, I can play active. If it's a P bass of somebody that I'm subbing for, then I pull up the second volume control, and then it runs the pickups in a different configuration, so it sounds a little bit more like a P bass, and I'll demonstrate it. Here's the jazz bass sound. Here's a little closer to a P bass sound. So it's very much, you get a very much P bass R&B sound. So it's very adaptable, and the same thing with the preamp. I can get all the different things to match exactly what I need to do. So the main difference between this bass, which is the XJ-1T 5-string, and the other bass that I use very, very much is the XB2 6-string. This is kind of a jazz bass style instrument, and with some very vintage sounding woods that you can get a really warm old sound that you can match anything. It's got a rosewood fingerboard and an alder body, so you can very much get an old jazz bass sound, and you can also get a very modern sound with the preamp. With the XB, it has an ebony fingerboard, which is a little more clear sounding in a way, but a little thinner sounding in a way also. None of the ways that it sounds different are bad. It's just very slight differences. I could really do any gig with either bass and be completely happy. But some of them are a little bit more suited to this style of instrument to get the right sound very easily. And sometimes it's this style of instrument, partly because it's a 6-string and I need the high C sometimes, but also because of the type of sound that it has. Maybe this one's a little bit more modern, clean sound, and this one is a little bit maybe more vintage style. Like I said, but it's very slight in terms of the overall spectrum.